Welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets.
The transparency, the openness, the communication is more than you could expect. I'm sold.
Don't let the fact that you don't know something or don't know enough about something hold you back.
I knew I wanted to invest. What better way to invest than to invest in what I already know that I love, which is real estate.
It was initially the 12% return, but it quickly turned into the people.
Welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets. We are excited to be talking today with our team. I'm Jamison Manwaring, founder, CEO of Neighborhood Ventures, and I also have with us today Bart Dill, who's Director of Marketing, and Heather Andrews, who is Associate of Property Operations. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Howdy.
Good to have you both here today, and we're going to tap into your native Phoenix knowledge as we talk about some of the big news items that are happening in Phoenix and in multifamily. And I want to start off with this article that came from Globist. This is talking about what's happening right now in the gap between how much it costs to rent to buy a house. So you take the equivalent property and what is the difference between that right now nationally. And the currently the difference is almost $400. $389 is the difference between a principal and interest payment on a mortgage versus something similar if you were to rent it. As now 30-year loans have reached over 7% for the financing, which is as highest that it's been since April of 2002. So wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this gap and what you think about this article and this recent news.
Well, I think it's good news for multifamily, first of all.
Yep.
It's kind of article we like a little bit. But I think it also shows that gap is only growing too. Like right now it's 389. That's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, and that's only including the principal interest payment on a mortgage. So that's not including taxes, insurance, or maintenance on the home either.
Yeah, and as a homeowner, I can tell you the maintenance can be a lot. I'm thinking that 389 would be very useful for other things.
So let's just round it. Let's say $500 with all the other things. This is a key reason for what I believe as to why millennials, boomers, Gen Z are choosing to rent. From an investment perspective, having that extra $500 of liquidity per month to put into something like NB REIT, I'd be willing to bet that you'd see a greater return doing that than buying a home.
I think you're right. And I think everything we see about the trends of what's important to like millennial and Gen Z, I think this aligns with renting anyway, aligns with what they're wanting to do. They want more life experiences. They want to travel more. And so they'd rather buy a plane ticket with that $389 than put in a new fence.
Yeah, and that's $389 isn't anything to sneeze at. If you think of $1,500 rent versus $1,900 mortgage, that's a huge increase. Just doing the math in my head, that's like 25%. So anytime, if you can Uber every day to where you need to go instead of buying a car, and it costs you, and you can save 25% in the Uber, I think most of us will probably be Uber.
Yeah.
You get your own personal driver. You don't have the maintenance costs. Kind of similar scenario.
That's the part I like, a personal driver. I want to show.
Yeah, personal Uber. But the reality with Uber is it's way more expensive to Uber. So if you Ubered everywhere you drove, the costs, you're looking at 50, 60, 70 bucks a day, depending on factors. When if you have a typical car payment's about $800 right now, plus some insurance and gas, you're under 40 or 50 bucks a day. But that's just another way to look at the scenario is if you have the opportunity to buy, most people want to do that if it makes sense. And right now that gap really makes it difficult.
That was a really good analogy. Thanks for putting that together.
I came up with that one on the spot. So
nice.
This is why you're the founder and CEO.
Next article I want to talk about is from Globist, and this is the author is saying based on what's been happening where in the multifamily market where people buy or sell multifamily properties, that there's so much pent up demand to go buy apartment buildings right now that it's bound to drive an increase in those transactions in the fourth quarter. We know transactions so far this year are down, depending on the market, anywhere 70 to 90%. I know, in like southern Utah or southern Arizona, for example, up until last week, there hadn't been one multifamily transaction, at least based on what I had heard from Tucson South the whole year. And so there's areas where it's basically frozen when it comes to multifamily buying and selling. Phoenix, there's been some transactions, but it's down somewhere in the 75 to 80% range. But in this article, they're saying because of that pent up demand, they're expecting an increase in deals in the fourth quarter. So Bart, what do you think about this analysis? Do you think that's going to happen in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I mean, if big time investors, they've been, putting cash into a gun all year and now they're ready to fire it off.
Is that you?
Yeah, I'm a big time investor.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they have to deploy those funds. They have to invest into something. And if they've been holding off, it seems like Q4 is probably the time it's going to happen.
Yeah, and they call that dry powder.
Yeah.
As an investment manager, you have cash that you actually have to deploy. And if you don't deploy it, you either need to return it to the investors or it's sitting there and if you're a real estate fund, you can't put it in the market or you can't put it in a savings account. You can basically deploy it in real estate. So these folks, they want to buy. I think they're seeing opportunities that in a market like this, there should be some opportunities where you can get a good price on projects. And at least according to this analysis and this train of thought, we may see some of this activity pick up in the fourth quarter.
Well, the thing I liked is it talked about that there seems to be this meeting of the middle. There's some acceptance that's happened between buyers and sellers, where they've accepted what the new landscape is, what the market is now, and they're like, okay, I'm ready to move forward, make some decisions. I can work with what it is. And so it's nice that people kind of over the sticker shock and are moving forward.
Yeah, because the last, call it year, certainly the last 6 months, there's been a lot of uncertainty about the price of assets, especially commercial real estate, and in this instance, multifamily, because buyers are always wanting to pay less, sellers are always wanting to sell for more. And what's happened is there's been this gap in between what people want to buy versus what they will sell, what sellers will sell it for. So it's led to a standoff, and the market's been fairly frozen. So in order for that standoff to change, there has to be a decrease in that gap. And you're most likely going to see that the buyers are going to, in my opinion, I think buyers will come in and start saying, okay, let's buy some more of these buildings. Even though we have higher interest rates, multifamily continues to be positioned really well, especially in these growth markets. And let's start buying these properties again. It's just a matter of time before they'll start deploying that dry powder. Shifting over to some of the more local things that are happening in Phoenix that are noteworthy, important to keep track of. And I got my two Phoenix natives who actually, grew up here to weigh in on this, because one of the things that's always been funny with Phoenix to me, as someone who didn't grow up here, but I visited here, is the malls were always like this big deal here. Like you want to go to Fiesta Mall was the best mall. Which is the one out in Mesa. Then Chandler Mall, obviously Scottsdale Fashion Square. That's always been the place. But Chandler
Metro
Mall, when that
Center.
was first built, was just like the big destination. You drive all over from the East Valley to go to Chandler Mall. But then we know what's happened with retail. A lot of these mall footprints just stopped performing. Consumers stopped wanting to go to a big mall. They're shopping more online. They want more boutique-y feel, and so malls have been transitioning to other use cases. And in this article is saying that Phoenix top malls play key role in record low for retail vacancies. So Heather, why don't you give me your thoughts on some of how this what's happening here with malls transitioning and how that's helping to drive the really low vacancies we're seeing in retail.
Well, I think it's interesting that Phoenix seems to be performing differently than the rest of the nation. That this is our malls are becoming an asset. They're doing some exciting things, and we've talked on a previous podcast about 3 malls in particular that are kind of all inclusive. There's multifamily, there's shopping, there's gyms, there's movie theaters. It is now like an all-day amusement park for an adult at these malls, and just really I think a little more imagination is happening around our malls. we're not going quietly into the night. We're holding on.
Yeah, one of the quotes in the article was shopping is and always will be entertainment.
It is for me.
And that holds true, especially in Arizona, because in the summer it's hot. You can't just go play outside. Having these free public spaces to go
Free
to,
air
and it becomes
conditioner.
habitual. It's like, I like hanging out at the mall. I like shopping. I like all these cool
Yeah.
experiences the mall has to offer. And then you're doing it in the winter.
Yeah.
And people are coming in town to check out these amazing places
Well,
we
when
have.
I was a teenager, that's where you went to fall in love.
Oh man.
Like where you need malls, and then the old ladies in the mornings walking laps around the these are
I'm
these are
doing that now.
staples of Phoenix culture. Yeah.
So malls are going to survive because people fall in love there because
Yes.
it has air conditioning.
Yes.
Those things make sense. I mean, if you have cool air and love, then
That's all
you're
you
going
need.
to why would you do away with it? But I do think that malls have had to transition to make it more experiential, more restaurants,
Yeah.
more events that you go there for rather than just go hang out at the mall because there's other places to shop. But the malls in the Phoenix metro area continue to see low vacancies, to continue to see good performance. And Bart, what's your favorite mall in the Valley, Bart?
I like Fashion Square. I can spend an entire.
Well,
You snob.
okay, I'm going to take out Scottsdale Fashion Square. If you're from Arizona, or if you're not from Arizona, you may not get this, but that's all. That's where all the pretty people hang out. So that's where Bart is hanging out. He's there
You
to
just
date.
called Bart
He's there
pretty.
to fall in love.
Thank
Not
you.
me.
So besides Scottsdale Fashion Square, what's the best mall in the Valley?
Ooh.
Indoor, I would say Arrowhead Mall. That's just because I used to love going there as a kid. There was plenty of
Grandmas
things.
and grandpas go.
We used to have there's a restaurant called Chewy's in there, so it's nostalgic going there. It was a Mexican restaurant. Outdoor mall. I love the Scottsdale, Kierland and Scottsdale Quarter.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things to do around that area.
Kierland
Great
is good.
restaurants, and also the shops there are boutique-y, but also some high name big shops.
Heather, what's the best mall in the
Well, I
Valley
think as an
for
adult,
you?
I would go with Kierland. But
Yeah.
like Metro Centers, that's nostalgic. That's Orange Julius and the roller rink. Hey.
Well, and what's happening in Phoenix with retail is the vacancy is so low. It is difficult to find places to, if you're an entrepreneur, you have a restaurant, you have a boutique shop. It's really difficult to find space right now. So the
Yeah.
malls are doing well. I'm going to say Biltmore is my favorite mall. It's one of the smaller ones, but it's probably the only mall I go to.
Yeah, well played. That's
It
a good one.
has the important stores. It has Lifetime Fitness. It has Lululemon.
It's not a store.
And it has a Macy's, and then it has it has a couple good pizza places too. So you guys are wrong on that one. Biltmore's the number one, but we do have some good malls here in the Valley, and right now they're playing a key role in keeping our retail vacancies so low.
For our Arizona investors, maybe we'll have to put out a poll and decide this. Which mall do you guys like the best? And we'll put our 3 top favorite ones.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love if you're listening to this, mark down in the comments if you're an Arizona investor, resident, or if you know Arizona, what is your favorite mall?
And I expect all the investors that I have spoken to side with me. That is just
So Phoenix City Council has been on a bit of a approval spree lately when it comes to approving apartments, and this is a good thing. There is a need for places like Phoenix that can take the density of more people living in a certain area, that with public transportation, with services, that these city of Phoenix needs to be leading in allowing more density, more apartments, multifamily, and they just approved 1,600 more units in Midtown. So this is the rendering, pretty decent rendering.
It's
We've seen
pretty.
some bad renderings in the podcast. This one's pretty good. It looks like they got some trees, they got some green stuff there. What do you guys think? Will you guys move into this place? This is Midtown, Central, and Coolidge. Coolidge is I think Coolidge is north of Camelback, but I'm going to double check that.
So it's like those are kind of more interesting areas. They're near, I think, some of the historic districts, and there's some, I think, some kind of cooler shops over there. It's
Yeah.
really being built up and kind of very up and coming. I think that area. I think it's where a lot of young people want to be.
Yeah, and it's also on Camelback, on Central, and Central is where the light rail goes down. So you see a lot of these bigger apartment developments are occurring around the light rail. Coolidge is south of Camelback, so it's really right there on being able to pick up a light rail ride downtown for work, or to get all over the valley. And so I think this is smart, that this is where the development's taking place.
Well, I think it's so necessary when we're talking about that density and what an area can handle. It has to be near some public transportation
Yeah.
that people want to use. And so I think we're just going to see more and more around the light rail. That's just going to continue to grow.
And I think people who are moving to Arizona from other major cities, maybe like LA or Chicago, San Francisco, they're already used to public transportation. So coming here, that's an issue with people who already live in Arizona. They don't know how to use public transportation. So building in Midtown, if there are folks that are moving to that Midtown area, they're going to be more inclined to using it and getting everyone else on board.
Well, and this is one of the problems with LA is they really don't have good public transportation that people use. They don't use it. They just want to drive everywhere. And so we wanted to buck that trend. We started doing our light rail, and over time, as we get more dense, I think it can be, we want to go a different route than what LA went, where everyone is always in their car sitting on the freeway. And so I'm hoping that, especially after spending time living in New York and these other areas that have really good public transportation, it's a lot better to ride a subway, to ride a light rail, than to sit in traffic for 30 minutes in your own car.
That was one of my hardest transitions, moving from Manhattan back to Arizona. I was having to be back in a car. I miss the subway. I miss the bus. It is taking care of like another child, having a car, and it's not a very cute one. So more light rail, more public transportation.
And so this original approval was for 250 units in the Central and Coolidge area. And then when they approved that, and that was from a builder out of Dallas, Trinsic Residential Group. We also got, they also approved 1,500 units, including 2,500 ground feet of retail. And this is on 15 acres, and this is in the area near Still Indian School Park. And so this has been a project that's been in the works for a while. Still Indian School Park, I've always seen as a great opportunity for the city of Phoenix to almost have like a central park. It's right in the middle of the city. There needs to be some more investment there. It's near light rail. And so this new plan is going to add 1,500 apartment units and a bunch of retail right on that corner of where the park is now. In addition to that, Tempe, they're getting in the game a little bit. They approved plans for 500 apartment units, and then they have 1,000 more in the pipeline. And this will end up being one of the tallest buildings in Tempe. We'll take a look at the rendering here. Pretty good rendering. We zoom out a little bit. And so this is we saw a bad rendering last week, and so now I'm critiquing all the renderings. If you're listening on the podcast, sorry, I'll just describe. This is a pretty nice looking tower, going to be going up in Tempe, 27 stories, and plans are now approved. What do you think of Tempe and their plans for multifamily?
Well, this semi-related, but just talking about the renderings, I know someone outside of Arizona has made this rendering, because I don't see one bit of gravel or any kind of cacti. This is someone from a different state who's a beautiful rendering, but there will be a little bit of gravel by the time it's done.
That will be added. I see a palm tree, but yeah, you're right.
No, I think it's really cool. The other biggest tower is the West 6th in Tempe. Right off the Mill Ave, and it's a beautiful apartment complex. So it's cool that there's going to be a competitor for some of these students.
I like to believe they're in some kind of fight, And this is, there's some drama happening. And I know that's not real, but that he's going to show West 6th. Look how tall I am.
No, that's a real thing when it comes to developers. They're always trying to be the tallest one in the city. And Tempe's also done a really good job with their transportation. They not only have light rail that comes through and you can get all the way to downtown to Phoenix from there, but they also have the streetcars now, which are kind of a cool, they ride on the light rail lines, but they look more like a traditional San Francisco streetcar. And for students at ASU and folks who live there, Tempe is a cool place to live. I think not just for students. It's always kind of been in people's heads, you have to be an ASU student to live there. But I think that's changing. And especially if you want more of that urban feel, I would say it's probably in some ways even more urban than city of Phoenix itself now.
Well, now I've got a competition in my head between Tempe and Phoenix. That's all you've done is planned.
So we often talk about rents, where rents are, how that is going to trend going forward. This article from Globus.com, multifamily rents pose for robust increases further ahead. Basically, they're saying the construction that was planned, some of that is now coming online, and then a lot of it's also been canceled. A lot of these projects that were planned, the developers have looked at them and said, wait a second, we're not going to be able to make these projects profitable under the current debt financing situation. It was a lot easier when debt was 4 or 5%. Now it's 6, 7, 8%. And so a lot of these projects are now on hold. And so what that means is less supply for the same or an increasing amount of demand, depending on, as we referred to earlier, less people being able to afford the housing. So this is a trend that we keep our pulse on as rents continue to move. And then I also want to bring up another article, which basically this is AZ Big Media saying specifically to Phoenix, higher rents and low supply create major shifts in Phoenix multifamily. In the last, since March of 2020, rents are up almost 40%, 39%. So what are your thoughts on where we go from here with rents?
Well, the first thing I thought is if you have a good rent right now, it's a good time to re-sign your lease.
Yeah.
That they are only going up. You take advantage of the good rent you have right now.
I think my biggest takeaway from this article was the struggle to find affordable housing for people that, are middle of the market.
Yep.
Because for these developers, it's the same price to create a luxury building and have these higher price rents than to make a middle market building for someone, someone similar to me with in terms of income, and finding an affordable place for them to live.
I think this was the article. There's where they talk about, it might have been a different one, but it's this interesting juxtaposition of it costs so much to build the affordable housing, but then they also have these crazy long wait lists. We have plenty of people that would move in. That's not the issue. It's just what it costs to build. And even getting the project moving forward. Like I said, what normally would take 1 year to complete now takes 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the time to get a project complete is extended. The costs to complete a project have gone up a lot. Inflation slowed down, but that also means that there's been a big lift in the last couple of years in the expenses. Even though inflation's slowing now, there's been a lot of 20, 30% increases in materials. And so projects are looking harder for developers to do right now. And then you add the additional cost of debt. So what ends up happening is also if you have debt on a property and your debt has gone up, you end up having to pass along that additional debt cost to your renters to cover the mortgage and to cover your costs on that building. And so as this kind of shakes out over the next 6-12 months, I'm a buyer, I'm a holder of apartments right now. I think you continue to see prices, rent prices move up, not 40% like they moved up since March of 2020, but I think it's a good, you're poised from a supply and demand position that this is an asset that's going to do as well as any. And I always love the fact that people pay their rent first. So that really brings down the risk when it comes to owning apartment buildings.
What I thought was interesting too, they said, I think we're adding about 100,000 people to Metro Phoenix every year. And so this article really talked about the need to build vertically instead of horizontally. Where historically we build out. It's all big wide open spaces, the wild wild west.
Yeah, more dense, having more density.
Yeah.
Building up. When Arizona was first, there was a lot of growth. It was easy to just grow out because it was 15-minute drive, 10-minute drive downtown. Now you're an hour and a half to some of these far suburbs from the core, and people want to live more near the core where everything is happening.